Today we have a special guest with us, Karen Earns. Karen's story is like no other. She went from owning dive shops to living on a sailboat and teaching diving all around the world. I mean, talk about diving into adventure. She's also the author of the article, Is It Still a Man's World?, which is about being a woman in the dive industry. Karen's experience in the dive industry has been both inspiring and eye-opening. Her articles in Scuba Biz have been praised for shedding light on the challenges women face in the industry, and her journey from owning dive shops to living on a sailboat and teaching diving around the world is a story that's sure to inspire divers everywhere. So, put your fins on and let's get ready to explore the depths with Karen. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to watch until the end, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all our future episodes. Plus, you're not going to want to miss a second of this very special interview. Now again, my name is Benjamin Hatfield. I'm a technical diving instructor with Teach Me to Dive, connecting divers with quality instructors, dive shops, dive locations, and dive agencies for training. So let's go ahead and jump into this with Karen. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Now, how did you get started in diving?
Well, I started diving in 2007. I decided to go on a holiday to Mexico, and I wanted to do some more than snorkeling. Before, snorkeling always appeared to me very easy, and I saw fish, so I thought it was enough. But then I decided finally to do the technical diving stuff. It looked a bit technical and difficult to me, but from the first second I wasn't in the water with a scuba tank on my back, I felt so relaxed and so good in the water. It was so much easier than snorkeling and free diving down to the bottom. So I just got hooked on scuba diving at that moment. And the holiday in Mexico was great because I was diving there so many places, Cozumel, etc. So I got hooked to scuba diving.
That's awesome. So now you're from Belgium. You're from Belgium, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now,
yes, that's correct.
So how did you become a dive shop owner in Belgium?
Well, after that holiday in Mexico, I felt scuba diving was something I wanted to do more, and I just didn't want to wait for the next holiday to come up to do scuba diving. So I took my next course and my next course and my next course in scuba diving, and I was diving in Belgium in quarries and lakes over there. It was a bit colder, but still it was okay for me to dive. So I took the next course and the next course, and suddenly I ended up being a dive instructor, teaching other persons diving. And well, I became a partner of the dive center where I started scuba diving. I became a living partner with the owner there. So we decided to go on, just the two of us, and to be business partners as well. And so we built the business as finally we owned 3 dive shops and 3 dive schools. So I was managing together with him and owning the business and making it great.
That's awesome. So just continued through the process and kept moving and moving and moving, and then it got better and better. So tell me about being a woman in a male-dominated industry, though.
Well, before the scuba diving business, I was working in the logistics and warehousing business, which is also mainly male dominated. So I was used to working with men. I actually didn't have a problem with that at all. And the dive industry, it's male dominated. And as a woman, you have to prove yourself maybe a little bit more than a male, that you're good in your job. You have to know all the details. You have to know your background. But once that you can prove that you know that and you know your job, I think you're like in other businesses, you can reach things that you want to reach.
That's awesome. Now, has it been tougher to gain the respect through that process of proving your knowledge?
Well, I think I think maybe as a woman, you have to prove a little bit more that you know what you're doing, and you have to prove that that you know how to dive, that you know what you're doing. And once you have proven that to the man, and they see that you're like a real diver, you gain their respect, and then it's not a problem anymore at all. So I was joining tech diving courses with only other males in it. I was joining some cave diving. I was the only female, and yeah, it was sometimes pretty tough on me because as a woman you have a different body. So the big thing that I always had to fight was the cold water, cold environment, and as I'm tall and slim, it's for me it's the biggest enemy in the water is to be cold, not the male surroundings.
Fair enough. So how has it been different as a woman with dive gear in technical diving, other than, of course, always coming up with a lot more gas than me?
Well, the gas fact, I'm not carrying those big 15-liter tanks around. I'm just happy with the smaller 7 liters double set. So that's already good for me. But in the beginning, that when I started diving, the suits and the dive gear was mainly unisex. But unisex means that it should fit for men and women. But everybody knows that the body of a man and a body of a woman are completely different. So how can I fit in a suit that also should fit a man my height? So in the beginning that I was diving, and I was diving with those suits, I was always cold from the moment that I jumped into the water. I was cold and not comfortable at all. Not comfortable at all. Also, the BCDs were always too big, and like I was fighting the tank on my back to stay on my back and not going somewhere else. But then after a few years, I think around 2010, 2012, there were some companies coming out with some new suits in like 15 sizes for only female. So that was really great, because then you could pick that suit which was perfectly fitting. And when I jumped in the water at that time, I was really very comfortable. It was very nice diving. So diving became a little bit easier for like women, and women are usually smaller than men, so they need different dive gear. And nowadays the companies are working towards that, so there's a lot of choice at this moment. So you can always find your perfect fit in the dive equipment, which makes diving much more easier than before. So I was suffering both, and I really appreciate that that I have the perfect equipment fitting me at this moment.
That's awesome. Now, have you noticed a shift in that? You and I both are pretty big into technical diving, and with my wife, I've noticed there's been a lot of times where she's the only woman on a boat, and it's certainly that oddity, that mermaid, if you will. But I have noticed that in technical training, I've seen a lot more women joining the industry. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, well, actually, in our dive center back in Belgium, we usually had a very good balance between the male and the women's. Not only the customers diving with us, but also the dive instructors. So we always had like a 50-50, sometimes even more women involved in our instructor courses than male. So I think there is a shift. And I think it's also becoming easier for women because of the specific equipments. I mean, before the technical diving, well, at this moment it still is. Technical diving is like a black man, all dressed in black suits, having those big tanks on their back. But it's perfectly okay if you're a woman wearing a pink suit to join them. Why not? I mean, if you can prove that you're able to dive, why not dive together with them? It's perfectly possible.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And it's been wonderful to see a gain in the industry. So how do you feel, Karen, that how you're empowering women and girls to join you and follow you in this industry?
Well, I'm an instructor trainer, so I teach open water courses, of course. Well, that's the first step. If you want to work in the industry, you have to do the first course, which is the open water course. So everybody of all the instructors took the open water course, which is a pretty important course because there is where you can find out that you really love scuba diving, that you really love being in the water, and if the click is there and people want more, then we are ready to teach them more about doing different dives, about teaching other people, being patient. That's really important, and I think women are better in that than men. So that's an advantage that women have over men when it comes to teach. And also, I think women sometimes are a little bit more scared to do some new things, new stuff, in comparison with men, and they need some more encouragement by other women who already done that so many times. And when they feel that they're encouraged and that they can do it, they will do it. But sometimes they are a little bit more like fearing to do something new. And that's where men usually say, okay, that's nothing for women, because they have this fear, and just stop doing that. But if you come over your fear and you go doing that specific dive and you do it very well afterwards, it gives you a very good feeling. And then those women can go on to the next dive. So yeah, I don't know. It's women and men are just a bit different. And as a woman, you understand those women better, how to encourage them in diving and going on with diving. So that's what I try to do.
Fair enough. What's been the biggest challenge for you as a woman in the dive industry, both as a shop owner as well as an instructor?
Well, for me, the physical part was pretty hard. So I already told you that I was always cold in the starting of my career, and that's not a nice feeling. If you're just a little bit cold, it's okay. But if you're doing a dive of like 45 minutes in very cold water and you're coming out and you need to help your students taking off their gear and you're really, really cold, it's very difficult. And yeah, so the physical part was mainly the most difficult for me. Also, if you have to prepare cars or boats or whatever with the tanks, carrying tanks is not an easy job. It's a real fitness that you're doing. And yeah, male are having a little bit advantage over women to be physical a little bit stronger. But that doesn't mean that I never carried tanks to a car. I think I always saw it as a challenge to have this to do this as well, because I didn't want other people, like the male team members, to look at me like, oh, Karen doesn't need to carry tanks because she is not strong enough. No, I didn't want I didn't want that. So I was maybe carrying the 7 liters, and then after that the 10 liters, and in the end, after a year, I could I was trained, so I could carry all tanks to the car. So the physical part is pretty well. It's sometimes difficult, but you can learn to work with it. So that was, in the end, that's okay.
Well, honestly, I don't care if you're a man or a woman; those tanks are heavy, regardless. That's probably the biggest challenge with our sport, I think. The book work was always really easy for me. It was the carrying the stinking tanks to the water, to the boat, to the wherever I got to go. Twin sets are heavy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and another thing is that maybe for the administration part of the diving, I think women are better in that than men. So in the end, you also have a bit of a balance in between the jobs that males and females are doing in the same dive center. So it should be a healthy balance, like in every other business, that you have a little bit of the female input and also a little bit of the male input, and that makes the business a healthy business or a healthy dive center. If you have a dive center with only male doing tech diving, you will never see another woman in there because they're a little bit afraid to go there because it's like a male run dive center. So I think it's very important to have a healthy mix in female and male instructors and people working in a dive center.
Absolutely, to have those positive role models, to have somebody that's diving that looks like me, that is along my lines. So I imagine that's got to be very important for women as well. And it's one of the reasons my wife was able to get into it as well, as our dive shop locally had a woman owner. And so it made it easier for her to have somebody to identify with, that she was able to say, okay, she can do this, I can do this. And eventually my wife is equal to the dive shop owner in terms of experience as well as instructor abilities and instructor levels. So it's been nice to have somebody to go to that point. Now she's looking to go to that next level. So it's good to have good role models like you in the industry. So Karen, you wrote a really great article. What motivated you to write this? Is it still a man's world? And what message do you hope to send to the women in the industry with that?
Well, while working in the dive center and the dive shop, after a few years, people knew I was there, and they know that I knew a lot of things about diving, that my courses were okay. So I didn't get that feeling anymore. Like they looked at me like, "Oh, you're a woman, and you're teaching me the dive course. Really? Is that really safe?" And never got this kind of situations. But since we're living on the boat, sailing around, we are also teaching other sailors, other people living on their yachts. So they're not really into the dive business. And when we're talking with them, so together with my husband, they're always really surprised that when they hear that I'm also an instructor. So they're really surprised that I hear, "Oh, Karen, you're also a dive instructor. So you also teach scuba diving." Yes, I do. And they're really surprised because I'm a woman. So that's why I decided to write that article, as it seems to me that there is still, a lot of people looking at a scuba business as being a man's world. And I wanted to write that article to make sure that women also have a place in the scuba business. And I think that's what I made clear in my article.
That's wonderful. Now let's shift gears for a minute, because you brought up something interesting. How did you decide to ditch land life and live on a boat full time?
Well, it was not that difficult because I grew up on the sailing yacht of my parents when I was a kid. And my parents always told me and my brother, when we retire, we will go around the world, sail around the world with our boat. And it looks like, to us, it looked really normal because that's what we heard during childhood. And so when my father got retired, they took their sailing yacht and they traveled around. They started traveling. And at this moment, they're living already 13 years on their sailing yacht. They're now in the South Pacific Sea in the Solomon Islands, still happy and living on their boat. And me and Jean-Marc, my husband, we visit them many times on their sailing yacht to also experience the life on the boat, and of course to do some very nice diving from the boat, because with a sailing yacht you can go to remote places and do some diving if you have the dive equipment with you. So those experiences were always really nice, really good. We loved to live on the boat. We loved the life of the sailing community, and we also loved to scuba dive wherever and whenever that we wanted to do it. So that's when we decided to work towards also a life like that, to work towards buying a sailing boat and traveling around the world. So that's how we ended up living on the sail yachts already for 2 years now. And it's been the best decision we have ever made, I think.
That's amazing. I think that's definitely for people who live on land. I think it's definitely it sounds neat, but it's got to be different. So, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned living on a boat full time?
Well, it is completely different than living on land. The first thing which is really different is that you don't have access to a car anymore because you're sailing around with a boat. So if you come in a new place or a new town or whatever, and you need to do some grocery shopping, that's sometimes is really a bitch. Because you don't have a car, you have to walk to the supermarket. You have to carry by hand, carry all the things back to the small dinghy to go with the dinghy to the boat, which is anchored out in the bay. So it's really a lot of work to provision the boat. And you have to do it all manually. So you're always walking around with things, carrying things. So that's where the tank carrying is very important for us. So we are used carrying things. So that's one of the biggest changes compared to land life. But also, living on a boat makes you realize that a boat is always moving. So right now we're talking, you don't see it because the boat is constantly doing like those rolly moves, and you have to get used to that. But also, because the boat is moving so much, many things break on the boat. So let's say the radar is broken or some other things got broken. So actually, you're in a constant maintenance of the boat to keep it in a good shape. It's completely different than a house, because in a house you put a kitchen in the house, and the kitchen is okay for like 20, 25 years, whatever. But on a boat, things break because everything is moving all the time. So that's the thing. We knew that, but sometimes it can be hard because you have to fix that thing again, or you want to go diving, but you need to take care of a thing because we have water in the boat or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of the hardest things.
Gotcha. Karen, what was the biggest adjustment?
Well, life changes completely, and I think the biggest adjustment for both of us was that we didn't have that stress anymore of owning dive shops, dive schools. And the first months, we really had to get used to the feeling to be free, to be in the ability to decide, are we going to make a dive tonight, this afternoon, or are we going to drink cocktails in a bar, or are we going to whatever, do something else? So it was really strange to not having the stress of teaching, of opening the shop, and all those things. So the freedom was in the beginning a little bit overwhelming, because you're really not used to it, and you feel a bit like maybe guilty that you have the possibility to decide whatever you like to do, whatever you want to do. So that's in the beginning we had we problem is not the right word, but we had to adjust to that. And now we found like a balance between working and being free and doing whatever we like.
It's amazing, and it sounds like a dream to me, that's for sure. So you mentioned a little bit of a new balance in life. So how do you balance your life as a traveler, dive instructors, and other aspects of your life? How do you put that all together?
Well, we're doing charters, scuba charters, which means that we have guests on the boat. Maximum 4 guests can stay on the boat, and we cater completely for them. So we cater the diving, we cater the food, we do everything for them. And because of the dive shops and dive schools we had back in Belgium, we have many customers. They were already traveling with us before. We did a lot of dive holidays with them. And they are eager to come to the boat and to check out the life that we're having now. And well, that's what we're doing. We're not doing charters back to back because we chose this life to have to be free more and to have less stress. So we just decide to have a balance in the charters that we do, and in the scuba lessons that we teach. So we try to, if we don't have guests on the boat, because if you have guests on the boat for 10 days, that's 10 days working from morning till evening, because you have to cater for the breakfast, the lunch, you do all the diving in between, you have to fill the dive tank. So you're mainly doing everything on the liveaboard your guests are coming on. So that's a quite hard life. But if we don't have guests on the boat, we try to work, do some computer work in the mornings, a few hours, work on the articles for Scuba Biz, work on some other things. And then in the afternoon, we go diving or we do some other things. We move with the boat from point A to point B, because if you're sailing, it's not going that fast. It's not like driving the car. So you have to, yeah, watch a lot of things. You have to make sure that the weather is okay, that that you have the good route to sail. So it takes a long time to go to another place. So that's what we also have to take into account.
Fair enough. There's definitely a lot more logistics, I would imagine, to being a traveling dive instructor than there is to being owning a dive shop.
Yes, if you own a dive shop, you have one point where people can come in and ask for a dive course if they want to learn diving. They know the place, and you have to do some marketing for that to become known in the area where you're living, where you have your dive shop. We're traveling around, so we talk with a lot of people. And sometimes we meet new people in a restaurant or on another boat, on a beach or whatever, and we start talking. And everybody always asks, "What are your plans? Where are you going to? Why did you decide to do this?" And well, this is how people get to know that we teach scuba courses. And many sailors living on a sailboat right now never thought of that when they left. Because if you want to leave on your boat for like a sabbatical, that's what the most people do with their kids. They take a 1 year or 2 year sabbatical to take the boat, go to the Caribbean and enjoy life over there on the beaches and the nice clear blue waters. And then the boat is anchored in a very nice bay, and they look under the boat, and then they think, "Oh, maybe scuba diving might be a good option to do, because we're living on the sea." But before, they never realized. So there's a lot of people who would like to learn to dive while they travel on their boat, so they can also experience what is beneath the boat. So that's where we are coming into their lives. And a lot of people just decide to take the course together with the kids, so that they can experience also the scuba diving and the underwater life while they're living on their boat. And if you meet people like they say, "Okay, we want to scuba dive now," then you have to jump into it right at that moment, because sailors are always traveling around, going to other islands, going to other places. So if they want to learn diving, you have to make sure that you can say, "Okay, let's start tomorrow." We do like 5 days, and then they say, "Okay, yeah, because next week we're moving to that place or that place." So you're dedicated to the scuba course at that moment. And once you have them in the course, they're really good divers, because they're always already living on the ocean, already snorkeling a lot, being in the water a lot, because you're living on a boat. So it's those scuba courses are usually a lot of fun to teach. So that's what we do as well. But it's really difficult to plan it ahead, because it's usually people we don't know. So you have to meet other people, and then we see how it's going, and we get the question, we will teach.
That's fantastic. So it's got to be a little different. I mean, you're teaching on top of the deck. You're doing your classroom under the stars or in the open ocean. It just sounds amazing to me. But it's got to be a little different. I mean, you're traveling in your home. You're inviting people into your home for these liveaboards for these classes. Tell us about that. That's got to be different.
Yes, it is. The last part was I didn't understand it. Can you repeat it, please?
Absolutely. So teaching and living in your home and having these liveaboards and having people come into your home to travel and do diving travel with you, that has to be a little different for you. Tell me about that kind of experience.
Well, yeah, it is. It is right what you say. Our boat is a 50-foot sailing yacht with 3 cabins. So the main living room, it's our house. It's our living room where we're always living. So if you get people on the boat, it's sometimes difficult because they stay, like you said, they stay in your house, and our house is a little bit smaller than than we used to live. So yeah, it is important that, well, usually we know who is coming to the boat. We know the people because it's customers we used to know in Belgium. And well, we always try to explain them that there's some certain rules in when they come on the boat. Like, for instance, if we go diving, we have the dive deck. There is all the salt water. If you want to jump at the water, it's not a problem. You come out of the water, not a problem. But you don't go into the boat, into the cabin, completely salty and wet, because that will ruin our boat. So they have to understand that they are really living in our house, and we want to keep the boat like as nice as possible. And there are certain rules. And for now, it's always been really good. Like in that way that if I cook dinner and after dinner, well, people are sitting outside talking a little bit, but the dishes has to be done. There's no dishwasher on the boat, so you have to do it manually. So usually I start doing the dishes, and 90% of the time, people just come down and ask, oh, can I help with doing the dishes? And then we just talk. And it's really, they feel also at home, and they feel that it's not like living in a hotel or living on a different liveaboard, but they feel it's like more cozy, more like home. And yeah, just because of that feeling, they propose also to help me with the dishes or to help me with something else. So that's really cool. And that's what we love. So yeah, it's up till now, we didn't have any bad experiences with people on the boat.
That's wonderful. Now, what's been the craziest thing that's happened so far?
The craziest thing? Well, when we were in the Canary Islands, we met several times a group of or a pod of pilot whales. And we spent some time over there. So we spent 3 months on that island. And every time we went out, we came across that pod of pilot whales. And we started to look into it, to study them. And at a certain point, you could see that they were really resting on the surface, very relaxed, not really swimming around. And we were just floating with the boat next to them. And then we decided to go into the water and check out if it was possible for us to just blend in with them. And at first we were like very distant, but they were really curious. So they came to us, and we were just like floating with the snorkel, floating on the surface. And they just came to check us out. Who are those people floating on the surface of the sea? So the whole pod came to check us out, to look at us. There was some females with a baby pilot whale, and yeah, it was really a best experience ever, because you could hear them communicate with each other on the water, and that's why we're living at sea, because those moments you can only experience when you're living on a boat, when you're a lot of time out at sea, and when you pay attention to those creatures. And well, yeah, I don't know. That's why we're doing this travel.
That's amazing. Yeah, that you had a chance to. Did you throw scuba gear on as well and dive with them a little bit as well?
No, we didn't, because we didn't want to disturb them. With snorkel, they didn't feel threatened at all. But with scuba gear, you're not so free in the water. You're not able to move that fast, and we didn't want to disturb them. So we decided not to do scuba diving, but just do free diving. And well, that was really a good experience. That was really enough. And you feel that they are absolutely not threatened by you, but they're curious to check you out. Who are you? What are you doing here in the water with us? And yeah, they really look at you, and that's that's so cool. That's really cool.
That is amazing. So, can you share some important lessons you've learned in all your years in the dive industry?
Well, I've learned that if you want to reach something in the diving industry, and you're willing to work hard for that, you can achieve it. But that's a bit like in every other industry, I think. If you're willing to reach something and you're working towards it, yeah, then you can reach it. Then it's possible to gain. And nowadays in the scuba industry, if we talk with people, a lot of people think that being a dive instructor is a lifestyle. You're living on a nice location. You're always living on the beach, swimming in the clear blue waters. In the evening, you're going out and drink cocktails with your students. So it's a bit of a lifestyle, and people don't really see it as a career, but it really can be a career, and you can reach a lot of things if you really want to reach it. So yeah, I think that's what I've learned in the scuba business. There always were a lot of people who said, "Oh, I want to be a scuba instructor, but I will not be able to earn my living." And we always said, "Yeah, that's not true. You can earn your living in the scuba industry, and maybe like in every other industry, you have to reinvent yourself after a few years, because the market is changing. Younger people want different things. They don't want to take the long scuba courses anymore, but they just want the experience of scuba diving. And if you are changing your business towards the market, I think you can make a big career out of the scuba diving."
Excellent. Well, what advice would you give women interested in pursuing a career in diving?
Well, if you really like diving and you're really comfortable in the water, just do it. Just go for it. And yeah, learn how to teach, learn how to be an instructor. And if you love it, you have to do it. You have to go for it. And well, I also gave up my job, and my father said, "Oh, do you give up your job? You went to university for 5 years and now you're going to scuba dive? What are you doing?" But in the end, it worked out, because if you really like what you're doing, it's so much easier to put effort in it and to work harder for it than if you're doing something that you don't want to do or that you don't like. Then it's just going to work from 9 to 5, and you're looking at your watch. Oh, it's almost 5. Now I can go home and I can do what I like to do. While if you're working and you are doing what you like to do, it's not a problem if you have to work 2 or 3 hours more. Then you just do it because you like it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, and that's a common theme in interviewing women in the dive industry is just go for it. If not now, when? I love that the advice, and it's interesting that I hear that only from women. I haven't heard a man say that you should just go for it. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? So I think that's a unique perspective that I've noticed thus far from interviewing with women. How do you continue seeing yourself make a positive impact on women in the dive industry?
Um, well, I always support women who want to learn diving, because I already said if you want to work in the dive industry, you have to first learn the open water course, love it, and then you go on. If you really love to dive and you want to reach something in the scuba industry, I want to give some advice to those women how to go on, how to give them advice in how you're teaching, how you're dealing with teaching scuba diving, or if you want to do something else, because you can also go into videography, photography, whatever. What you like, you should try to do it. And I try to give some advice through my articles in Scuba Biz, and I hope that women are reading it and doing something with it.
Awesome. Any articles we should be looking out for in Scuba Biz?
Well, there's an article coming up over about nature conservation and its challenges, because nature conservation is one of those big things people are always talking about, but sometimes it's really difficult to reach something in it, to get results from it. So I wrote an article about an NGO we met here in the Dominican Republic. We are right now in the Dominican Republic, so I was writing an article about that, but maybe next week we come across somebody else who is really interesting, and I write an article about it. So, and if I write an article, I think always my female touch is in the article, and if as a reader you can feel it, because it's different from an article written by a male, and that's how female are. I think that's just the difference between a male and a female.
I would agree with that completely. We have our individual strengths and weaknesses, and we should play to that and work with that. So what are what are your future plans, and how can we help?
Well, we are planning to sail around the world. We gave ourselves 10 years for that. We left 2 years ago, so we still have some time. And while sailing around the world, we have the goal for ourselves to dive in all those nice places that we visit with the boat. The Caribbean is one area, but after that we will go into the Pacific. And in the Pacific, you have a lot of very remote islands. So we're looking forward to dive there, because it's not so easy to organize trips over there. But if you have your own sailing yacht, it's a little bit easier. So that's the personal goals. And of course, we want to build out scubabiz.help a little bit more. And well, everybody can help us to check out the website and download the magazine and read the articles. And we're always open for some extra tips or advice, or if you have an interesting subject to write about, just write to us, and maybe that article from you gets published in the next edition of Scuba Biz. So that's
well, fantastic. Well, we're definitely going to make sure that we subscribe to Scuba Biz. I read it regularly anyway, but that's kind of the nature of who we are. As you can see, my book's behind me. I'm always reading, and just got a new book today. I'm very excited to start my new book by Rick Stanton. So very exciting stuff. Well, Karen, you've been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much for taking your time to share your insights, your ideas, your thoughts on women in the business as well, and what we can do is through this. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, I would say enjoy your next dive. Look out for the next dive always again. And make sure that you're having fun in the things that you're doing. And if you don't have fun anymore, change your life and choose something else that makes you happy.